Hey guys, let's talk about one of the most important skill sets in the business and one of the simplest but most misunderstood ones, and that's the ability to work a candidate list. So I really wanted to do a separate video-based module on this because it's such a easily misunderstood, very little practiced thing that makes all the difference in the world in terms of growing a large team. Now, we've talked a lot in a number of the modules about the difference between amateur versus professionals. Let's talk about how it applies in this context. Here's the difference between an amateur versus a professional in terms of the candidate list. The amateur does one of two things. Number one thing is they don't do a list. In other words, they go to a presentation, they see all the thing, what the business is all about, and 5 get 25, get 125, and 625, and their eyes get all glazed over, and they say, wow, this would be amazing, my brother-in-law would be perfect for this, and I know this guy would be good, and this lady I work with would kill this thing, and so they get their list in their mind of 4 or 5 people that they think would be just perfect for the business. So they don't do a list. They don't actually sit down, take the time and write a large candidate list. And they got their small list and they figure, well, these 5 people are perfect for the business. And then if these 5 don't all join and work out perfectly, and what's the odds of that happen, like 1/100 of a 1/10 of a 1/100%, then they've dropped out of the business 30 days into the business. The second possible mistake that an amateur does is they actually go through the process and they do a list, but they think that's a one-time thing that you do when you join the business, and then it goes in their file and stays in there, and that step is done. No, here's the distinction between a professional. A professional has an organic candidate list. It is this living, breathing thing that changes on a daily basis almost. Because here's the way a professional approaches it. They go to the dry cleaner and there's a really sharp new clerk there. They're dressed well, they're very professional, they're friendly. I had a room service waitress this morning in my hotel room. And she was very pleasant and she went through the all order and she said, now, when would you like me to come back and pick up the table? Because they don't like to have them out. It's a very nice resort here and they don't like to have them outside the hotel. Well, not only did she ask me that, but then she came back at that time. That tells you something about someone like that, right? So a professional, when you're out there in the real world, just doing life, living your life, that's where you're meeting people. So you got to have your antenna up all the time, and you got to say, wow, that person was really sharp. I think that person would be great for my business. So you do one of two things. If it's someone you're never going to see again, if you're flying to Asia and it's a one-time thing and there's a flight attendant working that flight and she or he is amazing and you're never going to see him again, you probably got to give them a mass marketing prospecting tool and your contact information and hope to follow up from there if there was some kind of a bond or relationship developed. Or if it's someone you are going to see again because it's a new person at the dry cleaner and they're going to be there every time you come back, great, you just let the relationship develop for when the time is right. But they've got to go on the candidate list. All right? So why I say organic, and then when someone joins the business, they come off the candidate list. Somebody who's been to a presentation, they say, well, it's not really, I don't think it's for me right now. We're kind of busy. We just had a baby, we moved or we changed jobs or whatever. Well, we can say, well, let's put them down the road. Let's come back and revisit them in 6 months or come back and revisit them in 9 months. So they go on the list, but their priority goes down. That's what I mean by living, breathing, organic list. That's a skill. Very easy. This is not rocket science, right? It's one of the simplest things. But the amateurs, they don't do those things. Here's the most important thing in terms of the list, however. Small list equals bad posture. Big list equals strong posture. Now, what do I mean by that? I don't mean posture and how you stand up. Posture in the context we define it here in this profession is the way you present yourself to the world, the way you present yourself to prospects. Think back when we did the module about mindset, and you could have the mindset of, wow, who am I going to get to sell this stuff, or who am I going to sell this stuff to? Or you have the mindset of, wow, who can I help with this thing? Who really needs what I have to offer? here's what you'll see in the business. And that's why it's so important. Get your people through this training and follow up. Make sure they're coming through these modules here on the power and rolling, and check with them after. And if you're a high-level leader, check the back office and the accountability. Did they pass the test? All of that kind of stuff. Because if they have a small list, they get desperate. That's why I say bad posture. Small list equals bad posture. If you have a small list, you've got 8 names and the first 3 or 4 haven't joined. Now your desperation level, your eyes are getting wider, your voice is getting shriller, your face is perspiring more, you desperately need these people to join, and they're like making the sign of the cross and the garlic around the neck for the vampires and everything to get away from you, because you're just scaring people away because you're so intense. That's what happens with a small list. When you got a list of at least 200 people, you just, okay, so these 3 people weren't interested. Okay, it's not for them right now, but I got 197 other people, and I know this business and these products or services are perfect for 40 or 50 or 80 of them. And I only need 4 or 5 amazing ones, and I can change the world, right? So here's your homework that's outside of this platform. Your homework is you really do have to have a list of at least 150 or 200 people. And if you haven't done that yet, I want you to do that. And don't tell me you don't know that many people, because I'm not buying it. I'm just not buying it. If you remember, that guy, the Unabomber they arrested, right? The guy was mailing out the bombs. He was living in the mountains, in the forests, in like Montana or somewhere. But then when they arrested him, it was like, oh yeah, I know him. He came in the diner. Oh yeah, he was oh yeah, I saw him. He's at the post office. That guy knew more people. All right. The rule is this. Average wedding has 500 people, 250 on the bride side, 250 on the groom side, and that checks out because the average funeral has about 250 people who signed the guest book. So I'm just saying, if you can turn out 250 people when you're dead, why not turn out them when you're still alive and you got something that can really help them? So use a memory jogger list, and it really is that way. Where do you live now? Who lives on the left? Who lives on the right? Who lives upstairs? Who lived down? Where did you used to live? Who lived on the left? Who lived on the right? Who lived up? Who lived down? Who sold you your car? Who sold you your carpet? Who sold you your cosmetics? Who sold you your stereo? Who's your accountant? Who's your chiropractor? Who's your doctor? Who's your dentist? Who's your babysitter? Who's your this? Who's your that? And anybody who was serious and wanted to be a professional, you'll get a list of at least 200 names. And the truth is, if you really push it, most people, the people who say they really don't know that many people, if you really sat down and made them push it, they'd probably get somewhere between 400 to 800 people that they actually could have some form of a connection with and could contact, and the people would actually know who they are. And with social media and online stuff today, that just is growing more and more and more. And so there's a lot of avenues there. So make the commitment to be a professional. Do your list. If you haven't done it, if you don't have at least a couple hundred on it, that's your homework outside of this platform, is get at least 200 on it, and then keep it organic. It changes almost on a daily basis, but for certain on a weekly basis. All right, let's go take the test.